I saw this headline, and this is a coordinated effort to smear pro-Palestinian protesters. And I found this funny. I just want to get your thoughts on this and the general media angle on Palestinian protesters as a whole. Look at this headline. Who's behind the pro-Palestinian protest that are disrupting Biden campaign events and blocking city streets? Look, they have a spooky headline. A spooky headline that is designed to plant the idea that there's some sort of nefarious foreign adversary that is funding the pro-Palestinian events. So they then do an investigation into who is financing pro-Palestinian protesters. They didn't find anything, but then they proceeded to write the scary headline anyway. So very broadly, you can respond to this, but very broadly, like you hear the response for Karine on Arab Americans, but very broadly, like the reaction you see for the corporate media smearing people who are anti-genocide.
Well, this has been the corporate media has picked up on this, but this has also been the same kind of language that we've seen from college campuses, especially, right? Like there's a lot of, every time you see students at a university engaging in protests against a genocide, protests against occupation, and this has been so even before this war on Gaza. Campuses have not been. I mean, I can tell you from my own experience this is years ago when I was an undergrad, when like Israel student groups, pro-Israel student groups would have an event on campus. If there were protesters for that event, I remember having an Israeli official come to speak at the school, right? There was a police presence and protesters had a line that they couldn't cross, and it was to make sure that the event was not disrupted. The same did not happen in reverse. Events that were for Palestinian students, students who were protesting against Israel's actions, those events, there was no police protection. Anybody could go disrupt them. There were classrooms. Like, I mean, you're sitting in a lecture hall and adult men would come to the class essentially just to like intimidate and yell at students. And nothing was there to protect the actual students who were being intimidated by these people. And then so it's so funny now to see the framing of the way just any pro-Palestinian protest, and it's not just that it's pro-Palestinian protest, it's anti-genocide, it's anti-mass slaughter, it's pro-international law, it's pro-human rights, it's pro-peace. Like that is what these protests encompass, and they're framed in this way to make it seem like it's so nefarious. To me, it's a reflection of how deeply dehumanized Palestinians are, that you can't, the idea that people could naturally think that it's wrong for thousands upon thousands of children to be killed and to protest that is so far-fetched in the minds of the people who are saying that there's something behind it, right? Who's behind the protest? There's nothing behind the protest. There's nothing there. There's anger at TikTok. Why does TikTok's algorithm put pro-Palestinian messaging more than pro-Israeli messaging? That's the content that people are looking at. So it's all to say that there's this grand conspiracy, right? And if the UN is saying something about Israel's actions, they're with Hamas. If it's the World Food Program, they're with Hamas. If it's the World Health Organization, they're with Hamas. If it's Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, any international NGO, any international institution, none of them can criticize Israel. If you have college campuses where people are learning about this history, these are all, leftist, corrupted professors who are trying to brainwash students. If students sympathize with Palestinians, it's because they've been brainwashed. It's actually insane when you think about the depth to which that argument has to go to say anyone who is critical of Israel, anyone who thinks what is happening is wrong, has been somehow brainwashed or is pro-Hamas. And that's the only way that this issue can be framed. From the highest court in the world, right, from the International Court of Justice down to the UN, down to every NGO, down to professors and their students. It's really insane to watch play out. But yeah, that's what that headline is. That headline is to say there's no way that you could be pro-Palestinian because you actually think they're human beings too. It has to be something behind the scenes pulling the strings.
Yeah, and every time Biden is asked about this, He said, "Yeah, we understand that people are upset that their family members was killed in Gaza." I'm like, I don't got no family in Gaza, and they purposely erased like the ton of Black and Latino people that are visibly upset about this too. They may seem
They
like the
erased
only
Jewish people who are upset about this, right? And any criticism of Israel is called anti-Semitic, and yet you have Jewish Americans at the front lines saying, no, this is wrong, especially if it's in our name, right? You have the that's what I mean when I say it's reached a level where no one no one can sympathize or empathize with Palestinians as human beings. If you recognize that they are human beings, that means that uh, they should have the same equal rights as any other human being on this planet. That is part of a conspiracy.
the absolute last time I'm gonna share. It's always fun to do these little 1 hour foreign policy power hour streams. You know what I mean? Another banger for you guys. But now to the point you made earlier, I want to make sure I show you guys this because I meant to show it earlier. I forgot. So remember when you mentioned how Netanyahu and Israel said it was absurd that Israel meddles in American elections? You have AIPAC that is putting out record numbers. I want to show you this because this is another example. I made a hotspot video just like a week or two ago showing you guys a tweet where they was bragging how they had a clean sweep on Super Tuesday. Now look at this, another tweet where AIPAC is just openly bragging about rigging the elections. Another great night for pro-Israel Democrats. All 8 AIPAC-endorsed Democrats won their primary election tonight. So far this cycle, they are 40-0. 40-0. All 40 AIPAC-endorsed candidates won their primary. This is what Zionist capitalist dictatorship looks like. So this is my last thing I want you to respond to, Assal. And this is obviously debunk the bullshit that come from Israel saying they don't meddle in United States politics. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, what I would say is just imagine a lobby, a pro-Russian lobby, right? That would try to sort of boast it about the same. First of all, we wouldn't be allowed, right? We differentiate who is what. If it's an adversarial state, you're not allowed to actually to lobby on their behalf. But the fact that money in politics is so it's so open, right? It's not a secret. It's not secret money anymore. I mean, we have the idea of like super PACs, and super PACs are a little bit more secretive. But essentially, how do you end up with people in power that do not represent what the actual masses of the population want? And this is just one example of how that happens, right? The power of the Israeli lobby in the US is one, but we have all sorts of other lobbies, whether it's about pharmaceutical drugs, whether it's healthcare, whether it's gun control, whether it's so many different issues that there's a large consensus in the country. And yet at the same time, our representatives do not do what people actually want them to do. It's because of the amount of money that is in politics. And I mean, that tells you something about the level of corruption that we actually live in.
Thank you for joining me as always. Thank you for $49, Martin. Thank you both for your presence and ideas. Absolutely. Always great to be in conversation with Assal. Thank you for joining us tonight. Any last thing you want to shout out? Anything you want to promote? This is I was trying to find the hardcover. This is one of the books. I was trying to find the one I just was reading. This one of the books you wrote. Anything you want to promote? Any last thoughts you have for Saul before you wrap up?
I just want to encourage people to keep talking about Gaza. And the reason I say it is because I know it's been many months and people, there's so many issues, there's so many things going on in the world, and it's not to diminish any of those. But this is a rare situation where the president of the United States could stop what's happening right now.